Hello everybody. This is my first vlog. First off, just to get this out of the way, I find this uncomfortable. I find it a little bit awkward to be talking into a camera and not talking to anybody in person. So if I'm awkward, that's why. This isn't comfortable for me to do. But I'll still do it and it'll still be good. Well, quick funny story. This is my second time doing the vlog. This is my first vlog, but the first time I was recording and I was nearing up on the 28th minute and I ran out of storage space on my phone. And I tried to go back and watch it and I couldn't watch it. Something was wrong with it. So I'm doing it again, which is awesome. But I think God is intentional in everything He does, and I think there was a reason that I'm supposed to do it again. And one of those things is maybe that one long video of everything I was going to say was going to be too long for you guys to sit down and listen to or watch. So I'm going to do like little segments, different videos of the things I was going to do all in one video, but that would have been a little overwhelming for you. So I'm just going to do separate videos. But yeah, oh, and also, why am I vlogging? Why am I not doing a vlog? I'll explain it in my blog, but I'll just quickly explain it here also. Basically, too much is happening in my life to keep up to date with typing it out and blogging it. So I thought it would be easier to explain everything, and it'd be a little quicker for me to talk it out instead of typing it out. And some of the things are just hard to like put into words on computer, and it's just easier to talk it out. So yeah, that's kind of why I'm vlogging. First segment, I just want to share with everybody kind of just personally what God's doing in my life, and just a testimony from last week and something that's just been really important to me. So we'll start with that. So last week, during Monday morning worship, so it's about a week and a half ago now. So we have Monday morning worship as an entire base, staff and students all together, every single Monday for about an hour. It's always such an amazing time. Holy Spirit always comes, is moving, speaking. It's just a super relaxed time of worship. People are just on fire for Jesus, really singing out, yelling out. It's an amazing time. I love the time. So last week we were in worship. And basically, a lot of worship I have my eyes closed usually. So about halfway through worship I had my eyes closed. And basically I got this picture from God. And it was a picture of a red wagon, one of those red wagons that you like pull around or sit in as a kid. And I was sitting in that red wagon in the form of a child. And God was pulling it. And it was just a really clear image of God pulling this red wagon, and I was sitting in it. And I was just sitting there like gazing up at God. And I was just so happy and overjoyed to be getting pulled by God and just like be in His presence. And this like represented two things for me. I felt like the first thing was it showed that I was not in control and God was in complete control. And I was just sitting, and He was just pulling me, leading me. So it was just, it was really representing me giving up control, and God just being in complete control, leading my life, and me just sitting and enjoying the ride. And it also represented just being in presence with God, and just how overjoyed and happy I was just sitting there gazing up at Him. I was just getting pulled, but I was just looking up at God, just so happy and overjoyed and at peace and comfortable just being in His presence. So I got this image and it was just so clear to me. And then throughout like the rest of worship, like I just kept like seeing this picture, and I just kept feeling like I was just right there, like looking up at God in His presence. And so like after I got that picture, I just felt like the presence of God was like right there with me, and I was just sitting there with Him, and I was just so happy and at peace and felt so much joy just being in the presence of God. And it was very overwhelming because I was just like right there, and I felt like I was in the presence of God. It was very overwhelming, but in a really good way. But it was just a lot, just like feeling this feeling of being in the presence of God. And I was getting like the Holy Spirit chills all on me. It was just like a crazy experience. And then a couple songs later in worship, I was standing there again with my eyes closed, and all of a sudden I saw the auditorium from a third person perspective, and I saw everybody in the auditorium, our bass singing, and I saw rain just start to fall down over everybody in the auditorium. This heavy rain start to fall down, and about a minute later, after I got that picture, they sang the song "Let It Rain," "Healing Rain," "Let It Rain" by Michael W. Smith. Let it rain, open the floodgates of heaven, let it rain. Yeah, that song. It was insane that like I got that image of rain coming down. Then they sing that song. Then after that song was over, Pete, our bass leader, got this. He's very prophetic. He gets a lot of prophetic words from God, and he got this prophetic word for the bass, and he started just like, just declaring it over the bass. And basically, God was saying, he felt like God was saying that the Holy Spirit was just gonna come like rain over the bass and just pour out over us, and God wanted to pour out His Spirit like rain over the bass. And then a bunch of people were getting words. Cheryl shared at the end that a bunch of people were coming to her, and a bunch of people were getting words of rain and the Holy Spirit wanting to fall down on us like rain, and which is just crazy that like I got this like picture. And then after Pete gave that word, there was a time where people were just praying out and shouting out and declaring different things, and it was getting very loud in the auditorium, and people were declaring things and shouting out and yelling out and praying out different things, and I had my eyes closed, and all of a sudden it sounded like rain was falling. If you've ever been in a house with a tin roof when it's raining, just that sound, like that's what I heard. I was hearing this rain just coming down and hitting. It sounded like hitting like a tin roof. As everybody's like praying out, I was just hearing this rain in my ears, and it was just really crazy that I was like hearing this, and I was like getting overwhelmed by it. And then that ended, and then the rest of worship I just kept getting like, it was just constant like Holy Spirit chills and me feeling like I was in the presence of God, and like I started to get very like lightheaded, and my legs were weak because I was just getting so overwhelmed. Just the Holy Spirit coming into the place and just being in the presence of God, and I had to like go down on my knees, and it was just a really insane experience, just like really, really crazy experience with the Holy Spirit, and getting different pictures and visions and feeling different things and hearing different things and all this stuff, and it was amazing. But the main thing that came out of that time was this picture of me in that red wagon, getting pulled, and giving up control, letting God be in control, but just being in the presence of God. And I think like that's what mainly God's been speaking recently over the past couple weeks, is just this idea of presence with Him and just being in His presence, and like the simplicity of that, the simplicity of being in the presence of God, and really just wanting to be with Him. And like in MDS a couple weeks ago, that's the school I'm doing, missionary development school, and we were talking about different types of prayer, and they were explaining how one type of prayer is just sitting and being aware of God's presence, not saying anything to Him, not trying to receive any words from Him, but just being aware of God's presence. And I really took that in. I feel like I've just been doing that so much recently. In all of my quiet times, that's how I started. I just sit there and I just try to be aware of God's presence, and it's always just so there, and I just like feel God's presence, and it's just been so amazing. Just been able to like be with God and not saying anything to Him or hearing anything from Him. That comes later in quiet times. I still do that, but just having these times of just being aware of God's presence and how amazing it is and how peaceful it is. And it's been just, so good. Just focusing on the simplicity. Like I can be very hard on myself. This is something one of my friends always tells me. He's like, you're so hard on yourself. I feel like I'm really good at finding what I'm doing wrong and finding what I can do better and what I need to change. But it's really hard for me to see what I'm doing right and receive affirmation and encouragement, especially from God. Um, but yeah, I feel like with my walk with God, it's always like, what am I doing wrong? What can I do better? That kind of thing. What have I done wrong? Yeah. So it's been like this transformation of still receiving conviction. And I still need conviction. I still need fear of the Lord. I still need to do the right thing, but not dwelling on it. And I feel like I've just been getting so much revelation of just like, I'm forgiven. And I know that's like this thing that we're always taught, but it's just like this deeper revelation of like, God sees me as a child. The other day, one of my friends had me do this illustration that's really helped me, and he said, pull out a picture of you as a baby. And so I pulled out a baby picture of me that I had on my phone, and he said, look at that picture. He's like, what kind of feelings would you have towards that child? If that was your child, what would you have? And I just explained, I would love it, I would snuggle it, I would take care of it. Sorry, I cut out for a second. Okay. Yeah, if it did anything wrong, I would obviously tell it and teach it that what they did was wrong, but that's for like the betterment of themselves. And as I was describing this, like as the words were coming out, I was like, well, this is obviously like what God feels towards me. And it just like, it hit me all of a sudden that like, he just sees me as like a little child. And that's just so lovable, and he loves me so much. And if I do something wrong, oh, it's just like, he's not that mad. He wants me to learn and grow from it and move on. And that's it. And so, sorry, it's like hard to, because I did this already one time and now I'm doing it a second time. So it's like, I'm trying to say what I said last time and it's just not coming out the same, but it's okay. Basically, what God's been teaching me is there's a simplicity in relationship with him, and it is all just about being with him and being aware of his presence and feeling the joy and love and peace and feeling conviction and realizing areas that can grow, but not dwelling on it and not being too hard on myself and realizing that I'm gonna mess up and I am weak, but there's joy in learning and there's so much grace. And it's all these things I've known, but it's just going deeper and deeper and realizing he just wants a relationship with me. And it's just been getting so simple, just living in the presence of God. And over the past week and a half since I got that image, I keep getting the image of a red wagon and me sitting in it, popping in my head. And basically, either when the picture pops in my head, either I'm looking at God or I'm looking to the side, or there's been a couple occasions where I'm like turned around looking out the back of the red wagon. And basically it's a gauge for me. Do I have my eyes on God? Am I focused on him? Am I living with my eyes on him, just in presence and awe of him? Or am I looking to something else? Or am I so distracted I'm completely turned around? And God's pulling me the whole time. God's always in control. God's always leading me. But it's this gauge for am I looking at God? Are my eyes on him throughout life, or am I looking to something else? Am I getting distracted, or am I about to do something wrong and am I looking back? So it's really important that I got this like picture of a red wagon and it's this gauge, and the goal is that as I'm going through life, my eyes are always on him and I'm always in his presence. And yeah, I hope that all made sense. It's hard to explain it all, but the past couple weeks there's been a fire that is being lit in me, like deeper than it's ever gone. I'm just having great revelation of how good God is and how amazing it is just being in his presence, like not doing anything, not having to achieve anything, not having to do, just being in his presence, just sitting in his presence is so joyful and peaceful and comforting, and it's amazing. It's so amazing. And from that, then I like want to change my lifestyle, change my sin. It's not change your sin, and eventually you will be able to come to a place where you're right with God. It's go to God, be in this place of His presence, and when you're just so overtaken and happy with that presence and that relationship with God, you just don't want to do anything else. You don't do anything to ruin that. So yeah, that's what I'm learning. That's kind of what's happening in my life. Is just enjoying life with God. How amazing it is that we get to be an intimate, personal relationship with the God of the universe. Hope that makes sense. I'm totally open to questions being sent to me whenever. Email, text, video message, Marco Polo, Snapchat, whatever. Just like send questions if you have further questions, or if something didn't make sense, if I didn't articulate myself well enough. That's what God's doing in my life right now. Yeah. Segment 1 over.